What does your body say about you? Your body language. How important is it? Our body language is not only our hands, how we move, how we sit, it's also our facial expressions. And what does that say about you? Do you wear your emotions on your face? I do, and I've been told that. As much as I try not to, I still do. So that is our topic for today. What does our body language say about us and not say about us? There's body language that sometimes we don't use that lets people know even more than what our body language is saying. And I am Teresa Palmer. I am a holistic cardiology nurse practitioner, a member of the Own It family. I've been guest hosting this platform for almost a year now, and I thank everyone who joins us, either watching live or listening to the replay. And I will let my other two panelists, Jacqueline and Pastor Durain, they can introduce themselves. So I will turn it over first to Jacqueline.
Greetings. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, Teresa. And Dr. Durain, it's so great to see you today. I love this topic. So, I am Dr. Jacqueline Brown. I am your sovereign leadership architect. What does that mean? It means that I teach people sovereign self governance from the inside out, leading from the inside out, being a leader that first holds ourselves accountable. And we are architecting ourselves on the inside, searching for who we are at our core. And once we know who we are at our core, and we begin to
No
govern that
sound.
appropriately, then you know what? Now we can begin to lead others. Having said that, body language. Body language is not just a movement. I do believe that it is micro messaging of sorts. And, Teresa, you talked about facial
No
expressions.
sound.
Every facial expression, pause, glance, posture, gesture, the shift of our body, it means something, whether we realize it or not. And whether a person feels seen or whether a person feels dismissed based on our body language. We are often
Testing,
can be more
testing.
respected
Working.
based on our body language. And we can be sort of dismissed based on our body language. And so I think that when I talk about the part of human governance and emotional regulation, relational intelligence, all of that really can tie into body language and the micro messages within that body language. Signals that people send, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. But here's the real rub: those signals shape how others experience us. They shape whether we actually make them feel comfortable, if they feel accepted, and really importantly, if they feel psychological safe. Psychological safety is something that I think we've gotten away from. So I will hand it over to Dr. Durain with just saying this one sentence about Mary Rowe. Mary Rowe was someone formerly of MIT, and she was a key scholar connected to micro messaging, micro inequities, and micro affirmations. And she was someone that really described these body language and micro messages very well. So, Dr. Durain, I'll hand it over to you because hey, if MIT studied this is a great subject for us today, right?
Oh, I think Dr. Durain is having a problem because we don't hear her.
Ah,
I don't hear what she's saying.
yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Yeah,
Um,
we can't hear her either.
yeah, we can't hear you. So why don't I take it back to me, let Dr. Durain go out, and she could bring herself back
Back
in
in.
because we
Yes.
can't hear what she's saying.
Okay.
So, um, what you were saying is true. Uh, our body really speaks, and our body says volumes about who we are.
Hmm.
And it's even those little nuances that sometimes, what are you doing with your hands? A lot of times people are kind of fidgeting a little bit with their hands, and people don't know that. Or they're sitting and they're just kind of, that's a message. That's
Hmm.
saying that you're not interested in what the person is saying. It's a direct message, and we don't often pick that up. And when you look at people that are trained with security, police officers and all, they're taught to be able to read people, and they're taught to read those nuances. Are you fiddling with a button while
Hmm.
they're sitting there talking to you? What are your legs doing?
Hmm.
Are you nervous? Those give you all signs if your legs are shaking, you're bouncing them up and down. Even direct eye contact. If you can't make direct eye contact with somebody, it's really saying something about you. So it's all these little things. It's also the expression on your face. And that a lot of times you have to really look for, because some people are poker players and they could have that mask and nobody knows what they're really thinking. I'm not one of those people. And I know one time I had gone to an event and it was very, very boring. The speakers were they were boring. Yeah. And I was sitting there trying to be polite, and somebody that I didn't even know came up to me. We were all at tables, and it was a dinner and it was drinks and everything. Person came up to me and had a drink in their hand and said, "Here, I think you need this." And I said, "Oh, thank you for the drink." I said, "But, how did you know I wanted a drink?" He said, "It's written all over your face. You're bored to death."
Wow.
And I
Wow.
thought, "Oh my goodness, here I was in a crowd of people, and these people actually saw on my face that I was bored to death." I tried to hide it, but that's just who I am. I show who I am. It's very difficult for me. Maybe with training, I'd be able to do it, but I'm always conscious of that. I'm always conscious of that. How you appear for women, even if they wear makeup, what does their hair look like? When you go on a video, a lot of people think, oh, I could come on at the last minute, whether it be like Toastmasters, we're taught to come on 15 minutes ahead of time because you want to check your sound, your mic. If you're doing a presentation, you want to check that also. Do you need a slideshow? Do you need to share a screen? All that has to be done before you go live. Once you go live, people are looking and judging you.
Mhm.
And regardless of what we think that people shouldn't judge us, they do. What does your hair look like? What does your makeup look like? Are you dressed appropriately? All these things matter. And this is how people resonate with us. So, anybody who's an entrepreneur, if you're a guest or not even an entrepreneur, somebody who's trying to get their message out, written a book, any of those things, if you don't appear like you care, they're
Mhm.
not going to care about you. And I know back in 2020, everything was done on Zoom. And
Mhm.
you'd see people in their pajamas sitting under blankets. And, that's saying, I don't care. I don't really want to be here. I don't care. I don't have enough interest in what's being presented or the people in the room. And that's how you get treated. I'm going to turn it back over to you and see if Dr. Durain is back on here. I don't see her at all.
Okay. You know, you brought up a good point, and I'm going to just go to because I think we know what positive micro messages and body language is, but I'm going to go to what happens when it's negative. The message that you're sending, you're absolutely right. You're saying, I don't value you. Or even worse, I'm tolerating you, but I'm not receiving you. And it makes people feel less credible. It makes them feel that there's a circle that they're outside of, or that their contribution is just an inconvenience, and that you've already judged them. And these are really important. You'd be surprised the very way that people can be extremely dismissive in their body language, where when you walk into a room or into someone's office and they don't look up from their desk to acknowledge your presence, and they're seem to be so ingrained, and they're asking you what it is that you need, but they're not looking up. Now, someone will say, well, people are busy, and these are things that happen, and everyone can't always give you the attention that you're looking for. Well, I don't buy into that. I think that that's unprofessional behavior. If I am that busy, then I need to take 1 second to look up and say, hey, I see you standing there. Can you give me just 1 minute? I'm doing something and I just need a minute to finish this. Or can you just do me a favor and come back in 5 minutes? But at least acknowledge that the person is standing in front of you, rather than you walk into a room and the person never raises their head up and they're asking you, what is it? But they never look up to acknowledge or look you in the eye. That is very dismissive, and it sends all of those messages that I just mentioned a second ago here. And I think that these are really valuable and important communication skills that are important. You know, I really enjoyed Mary Rowe's work at MIT. At the time, it just happened to be the right thing that I needed, because I was dealing with being the recipient of some of those micro messages. And I'm analyzing myself like, okay, well, what am I doing wrong? And in her work, one of the things that she describes is she talks about micro inequities as small but often hard to prove events that, and she used the word, may be covert. They may be unintentional. Sometimes they're even unrecognized by the person that is sending them. And she talked about how to tell the difference. And one of the clear distinctions is a positive micro message, it expands dignity. And a negative micro message, you know what it does? It just sort of counteracts dignity. It does just the very opposite. And that difference has impact. That difference is a powerful dynamic that I think we really have to take time to think about what these do to the people that we are having conversation with. Teresa, I'm going to put it to you with a question. You're a cardiac nurse, and I know that when I go to the doctor's office, I am very disturbed and literally sort of like, I don't think this is the right place for me if I feel dismissed. And when I hear you talk about the work that you've done, I know and I can tell that you're someone that gives people very positive micro messages. And I think that's important being a cardiac nurse. People are there for serious things. And I think that when you talk about how you talk about the heart and you work with people about their heart from a different perspective, that's a real positive experience that you're giving them. But imagine if you were to walk in with a patient or anyone and you appeared to be very dismissive. You were looking at something else. You never made eye contact with them. How would that, make them feel, especially if they're there for their heart?
Yeah, it's really, and the other thing that goes along with that, we can't be dismissive to our patients. We always have to pay attention, even if we're trying to do 12 things at once. I myself only do one thing at a time because really the brain can only do two things at a time
Yeah.
before it starts lagging off and doesn't do a good job. So when people think that they're multitasking or they think I could do two charts while I'm also talking to this person so I don't get behind. Doesn't work that way because you're doing a sloppy job. It's going to show up in one way or another. So I just concentrate on the person. The other thing is it's the energy that you emit. And you
Hmm.
can't do anything. You could change it to a certain, but I remember one time I was having a busy day at work and everything was going wrong. I couldn't get the computer to work right. Computer support wasn't answering me. It was just a mess. And you try to put on a happy face. And, I went in the room. I said, "Oh, hello, Mr. So and so. How's everything going?" And right away he said to me, "Well, I think I'm doing better than you."
Wow.
And he said, "You walked into the room," he said, "and I kind of felt a heaviness." He said, "I kind of felt like something was wrong." He said, "Is there something going on with you?" So as I shared what the problem was and we laughed about it, the energy changed.
Hmm.
So sometimes when you're not at your best, you have to share it
Hmm.
instead of, a lot of people say fake it until you make it. Well, that works with sports because the brain is a computer and the brain doesn't know if you're actually performing the sport at the time or just going over it, rehearsing it in your head. But when it comes to relationships, that doesn't work because your heart knows the truth. And that's where your emotions lie. So my emotions, I was feeling just very ugh, and the person picked up on that right away
Hmm.
because your heart is your largest energy center in your body. It extends at least 3 feet in front, behind, to the sides. So people notice immediately. They
Hmm.
may not say anything. They
Right.
may just put up with you.
Right.
But, to me, a lot of times the best thing to do is if I'm not at my best to, not that you're sharing your whole life with somebody and
Hmm.
telling them, "Oh, this happened this morning in my personal life, this." But if you walk in, especially to a patient room and, just say, some things happened that kind of got me a little off track this morning. I'm getting back on track. Please bear with me
Hmm.
as I regain my composure or whatever. And
Right.
people really appreciate that, but yet we're taught to be stoic,
Right.
and that's why leadership is changing because you're taught to hide your emotions, you're taught to hide yourself and not let anybody know that you're supposed to be this super person. And that's not life. People appreciate it more when you really act like yourself and even apologize. I know one time I went into an office and the office just everything was just behind in the office. Nobody signed anybody in. When I got in there, I wasn't in the computer. They tried to tell me I didn't have an appointment, all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
And, the provider came out and apologized and, made light of it, said, "Aren't we a mess this morning?" We just can't get this office operating properly. He
Mhm.
said, but I'm here. I could see you. He said, but I'm going to give you a choice. He said, if we've already ruined your day by the way we've acted here and the stuff that's gone on, we can give you another appointment at your convenience.
Mhm.
He said, or if you wait a few minutes, I will gladly see you. And I so appreciated that because he acknowledged that his office was a mess.
Mhm.
He acknowledged it. And, I felt recognized because when I walked in, I didn't. You sign in, they said, who are you? You don't have an appointment. Yes, I do. Well, you're not in the computer. And that's the response I got. Well, you're not in the computer. Well, I got a confirmation call. Well, I don't know anything about that because you're not in the computer. So, I think we just have to be real with people and let them know when we make mistakes that we're not perfect, when we're not at our best.
Mhm.
I'm not share your life history with, people and say, oh, my boyfriend broke up with me today, so I'm really no, that's not professional, but a professional way to do things
Mhm.
and let people know because they're going to sense it from you. They're going to get your energy, your vibration. And, if you explain that, they understand what's going on. I mean, you don't have to say, my heart extends 3 feet from my body. That's why you're feeling what it is.
Mhm.
All you have to do is say, it's been a confusing morning or things got mixed up. I apologize ahead of time to you. Let's get back on track. It's going to take me a moment to get myself back on track. So, what are your thoughts about that?
I love the part where you were describing when you go into the office and they say, well, it's not in the computer. There's very often, because I've experienced this personally, and I do track some of these things, when they don't look up at you. And that's really important. And what's missing today is training, leadership, understanding that training needs to start and it needs to go top to bottom and bottom back to top. And really understanding and being conscious, did my body language make this person feel, one, respected? That's a good thing. Or did it make them feel dismissed? Did it make them feel invited? That's a good thing. Or did it make them feel somehow reduced? And even when we're in a room with people, we have, I'm going to say, things that we do with our body language unconsciously that send these negative micro messages to the people that we are in front of or around. And one of them, it's a very simple one that people talk about all the time. They've talked about it for years, is when someone does this
Oh, yeah.
and they've got and then they sit back and then there's this blank stare. Now, there's been arguments that, oh, they're concentrating on what you're saying, or, I mean, I don't think there's a psychologist or a psychiatrist that has not agreed that firm crossed hands mean it's cold. It means, some people say, well, it means they're thinking, but it's projecting to the person that is in front of you that you're cold, you're getting ready to, you're listening, you're thinking, but you're listening so that you can automatically push back. So regardless of the excuses that people want to make, it's what does that make the other person feel? But if a leader is repeatedly also turning away from an individual, so you folded your hands and now you're constantly turning away, well, that's another negative body language. If you're constantly overlooking and flipping papers, that's again another message that you're not interested in hearing what that person has to say. And so these are really all things that I think at the end of the day, we have to look for something that I think people have forgotten about, Teresa, and that's congruence. Do the words and body language agree? And if we can start operating in congruence instead of incongruence, we can say, okay, I'm congruent because my body language and my words that I'm speaking, they agree together and they are sending a message. Even if I disagree, they are sending a message that I value your input. I'm not checking my phone. I'm not avoiding eye contact with you. I'm not turning away because those are all the things that create incongruence. But when we can literally look at one another, respect one another, and even if we disagree, our body language can sync up with the words that we're speaking, that just lets that person know, I hear you. And I don't have to necessarily agree. We can agree to disagree, but I hear you. And I get your point. I have a different point of view. And then we express that. But to your point, some of this stuff that sometimes I feel like a dinosaur, I don't know if you do, because sometimes it seems like these things have left the building.
Yeah, I think too, a big thing now is even with cell phones, and people think nothing about constantly looking at their cell phone. I see it in all kinds of things. When I go to play pickleball, there's people that are constantly on those phones, constantly scrolling, constantly. I don't know, are they that important that they can't take 2 seconds away? Or, perhaps it's because they're supposed to be someplace else and they've chosen maybe to come play pickleball when they're
Mhm.
really supposed to be doing something else.
Right.
Because, a lot of times I've seen people even put their phones on the side of where they're playing just so they could have access to that phone. And, I think that, again, we need to concentrate on one thing at a time. We need to give our full attention. And even in situations like that, like the audience may be saying, oh, that's such a foolish thing. She's out there playing pickleball. It doesn't matter if somebody's scrolling on their phone, it's for fun. Well,
Right.
it's the respect and, like you said, the acknowledgement that
Hmm.
people care enough to acknowledge other people.
Yes.
And when they're always on their phone and they're always scrolling and always looking, no, I'm sorry, they don't care about other people. They don't
Hmm.
really want to be there. And it gives off this energy that then permeates
Hmm.
through everything.
Right.
It changes the dynamic of the situation that you're in.
Hmm.
Whether it be at a dinner, whether it be, playing pickleball, tennis, anything, it
Hmm.
changes that dynamic, or even in an office. If people are constantly looking at their phones, on their phones, not acknowledging you. That's a dismissal. And we may not see it as that
Hmm.
because we're so used to having those cell phones with us. And we're so used to being able to get those messages anytime we want, that may be something that we need to think about, that the message we're giving other people when we're constantly looking at that cell phone and waiting for a message is, you don't have my attention, I'm busy with something else,
Hmm.
but I came here either because I had to, it's a meeting, or because you
Hmm.
invited me, I didn't want to say no, or I thought maybe I could join in the fun, but I'm realizing that I'd rather be on my phone more. Or I'm working and I really can't be doing this. So I think those are the messages that we really have to look for. in
Absolutely.
ourselves and really make sure that we're not giving those messages to other people. So those are my last words. What would your last words be?
I would wrap it up with saying that, when we look at body language, it's always going to be external evidence of internal governance. And I talk about self-governance. It really is. The body language that we're giving off is really the evidence of what is going on internally and how well we are governing ourselves internally. These body language micro messages, they become the emotional architecture of the room. They really do. And they tell people whether it is safe to speak or safe to contribute or even safe to disagree and safe to be seen. Body language is not only communication, it is a way of how we govern ourselves, and it reveals whether we or I or you or anyone has enough internal regulation to honor another person's dignity while managing our own emotions and assumptions and biases, fatigue if we're tired, or even authority. I think that that's really important. And I enjoyed this conversation as
Yeah.
always. And I'm hopefully that our audience is taking something away so that we are operating in the world as humans. Because it seems like that's something else that's left the building. But I appreciate us being here, and I hope our audience appreciates the fact that we talk about these very human things because we still have to function in this world, and uh, we've got to communicate effectively with one another.
Right, right, and AI is not gonna do it. When you do your AI videos and you do your stuff, it's animated body language, it's not really body language. That may be a topic for another time, so for now, we're gonna say goodbye. I'd like to thank the people who listen, the people who subscribe to Own It. We always appreciate you, and hope that we left you with some nuggets that you could think about and to pay attention. How are you showing up with your body language? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.